Well, good morning, strangers. How's everybody doing? I love you all. I missed you all. I know I did not post on yesterday, and I just kind of took a day off um, because I've been in contemplation, and I was a little discouraged last week. I've been talking to the Lord about how to go forward because I know God has given me some very challenging words to give to you all, and how to present that can be somewhat challenging. And so God reminded me that He says, "Well, if you can't run with the footmen, how you gonna run with the horsemen? Because the horsemen, they're coming, or the horses are coming." Okay, so I had to kind of get out of my little funk, my little pity party, and regroup, as it were. And I really wasn't going to get back on until the end of the week, probably New Year's night. But as it was with Jeremiah, as it is with me, the Lord started speaking to me at about 4 o'clock this morning, and I couldn't get away from it. As Jeremiah would say, it was like fire shut up in my bones. So, and I don't mean that in a laughable, facetious way. I really mean that God has given me a burden, and He's given me a pastor's heart, and this stuff is always on me, and it's always before me. And there's some people out there that need to hear it. I don't control that part of ministry. I just control what God has given me. And so I had to get up and kind of get myself together a little bit to come before you all again, because I guess it is what it is. I can't stop even if I wanted to. So I wanted to talk just briefly. I know there's a lot of concerns and there's a lot of contemplation out there as it relates to taking the vaccine. And the vaccine is going to be readily available for a lot of people. I understand it's going to be the elderly, the first line responders and doctors and all that stuff first. And I am not here to say yay or nay. I'm not here to say yay or nay. I'm not here to advocate for the vaccine. But what I am here to do is to give you some food for thought and, let you kind of go from there. But I want to challenge your thinking before you go out and get the vaccine. Because I know a lot of people, they're challenged for different reasons or by different reasons. Folks that are 60 and over, they want to take the vaccine because they just feel like their health is compromised. And maybe I shared this with you before. And as we start going down the age chart, the concerns start to get less and less. So with that in mind, and because we're getting ready to move into a new year, and I'm going to be talking about my predictions, and I'll just call them that. It's really going to be a word of knowledge. But it's what I think is going to happen in 2021. And I want you to always know that a word of knowledge, for the most part, comes before a thing. We haven't really established a relationship to where emphatically that God speaks to me. But I know that He speaks to me. It's just a matter of time before you'll realize that God speaks to me. But what I want to share a couple things by way of a thought consideration, and I want you to go back and revisit and remind yourself that the serpent deceived Eve. When we study in Genesis, the serpent came and he beguiled Eve. He said some things to her in such a slick and cunning way that she fell into his trap. Now keep in mind what I just said. I said the serpent did this. And Eve bit it. She bit into the trap. She bit into the agenda. She bit into the plan, the plot, the strategy, if you will, that the enemy had. Now, that being said, there was an agenda that would play out throughout history, and it is quite possible that is what we are seeing right now. It was the strategy of the enemy way back then, but it was not recognized as such. And so I'm just trying to give you a little food for thought. But when he told her that if she ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that she would not surely die, that was a deception, because God did say that she would surely die. And so I'm trying to create a path in your mind to get you to thinking of what possibly the enemy is doing right now in this hour, in this season, even as relates to help on one hand and deception or evil or death on the other hand. Okay, so when we look at this, we have to, as it relates to the vaccine, we look at symbolically, what does the medical society, what is the symbol? What does it stand for? Well, we know it's there to help. But when we look at that medically, the medical society, they wear a badge. It is a badge of recognition. It is a badge of honor, and it is esteemed, and they are recognized as people with, quote unquote, some form of cure, some form or fashion of cure medicinally. That's what they come with. Okay, so and with that symbol, the symbol is a rod, or it's a snake. I mean, a rod or a stick. And some symbols have one snake going up it, and others have two snakes going up it, and they kind of just touch at the top with wings or something at the top of it. I don't quite remember what that is, but that is the symbol for folks that are in the medical field. And it's ironic that on that stick or on that rod is snakes. So let's talk a little bit about where that could have come from. Okay, so when we look back in terms of mythology, there was a Greek god by the name of Aesculapius, and I may have that name wrong, be saying it wrong, or Aesculapius. He was a Greek god that was revered during his time, according to mythology, and he was known to have supernatural powers. He was very witty, and he was elusive. He could escape most situations that he had gotten into, and a lot of those were as it relates to health and medical issues. He knew how to escape it, but not only did he know how to escape it, the folks that was around him that were challenged by different sicknesses and illnesses, they know how they escaped it as well at his hand. And so the story goes on. One of the stories, mythical stories, is that one day he saw a snake, and he hit the snake in the head. The snake was injured, and I guess, in his mind, he kind of thought the snake was going to die, or quite possibly that it had died. There was another snake that came behind that snake, and that snake had an herb inside of its mouth. And so that snake laid the herb on the snake that had been injured, or perhaps looked like it was dead. It laid it on its head. Now, this is all mythology, okay? And both of the snakes wiggled away, all right? And so from there, he was known for discovering resurrection power, because, either some say, they argue whether or not the snake was dead or not. But for him, he discovered resurrection power. But at the end of the day, it was medicinal. He was very medicinal. So as it relates to health, and it was he was like the doctor of the day, and that's what everybody looked to. And so that's where that symbol came from. But I'm building these steps here to get us somewhere. So when we look at that, and we look at how everything happened in the garden, we look at the foundation of it, which was the serpent, and we look at how medicine evolved, and then we have to look at this issue with the vaccine. Okay, so we look at these two snakes now, and this is what we are presented with today. And you got two snakes, arguably two snakes. Some say one, but arguably two snakes going up a rod or a pole. Now, when I look at that, and as the Lord was And I really believe that the Lord gave this to me because he placed it in my spirit. And I started to go back this morning and revisit Genesis and revisit some other scriptures along with just study. And I didn't really study. This already knew where to go because I had studied this before. But when you look at this as it relates to what's going on right now, you have two bites or two possible scenarios. One is one snake that's going up this medical pathway, this stick or this rod is the snake of the vaccine, which could be cloaked in what Eve thought that she was getting from the serpent, because the serpent beguiled her and said, you know, it's really not what you think it is. And so, like I said before, I'm not trying to tell y'all one way or the other, but I'm just gonna give you some food for thought, okay, as you go and you let them administer this vaccine to you. And some of them say, well, there's no harm in it, and actually it's designed for medicinal purposes. We can argue that, and I think there's a lot of conjecture there that we don't fully know. On the other hand, the other snake that could represent symbolically could represent the virus. So now you got one snake going up the rod that is indicative of the vaccine. So it's saying help is here and on the way. There's another snake that's going up that same rod and saying that I am the problem, I'm the virus. So the question is, what's biting right now? That's the question. The question is, what's really biting, and it's all cloaked or disguised as help medically, symbols. When we look at prophecy it leans heavily into symbols. When you look at Daniel and Revelations, it's apocalyptic. It's symbols and this, that, and the other. And if you don't understand history and a lot of things as it relates to symbolically what happened and how this all came about, you'll get lost in the shuffle with what's going on, because our history points us to our future. The last thing that I want to say to you is that, so we have a false god in the person of it's idolatry of Esculapius, this false god. So, and we look at how everybody, the medical world that we live in right now, how it gathered around that, which is idolatry, again, looking towards a false god, a false hope, a false trust. I'm going to look to this. So I'm painting a picture. Now, the foundation all came from the enemy. We established that already, that he beguiled Eve and there was an agenda. So now we see where there's a false god and that we start to trust in that. I'm not saying that medicine, there's something wrong with medicine. I'm not saying that by no means. What I'm saying is that I want you to consider what's going on. I'm giving you some food for thought. So the last thing I want to tell you is that in Acts 28, I think it was Acts 28, when Paul landed on the island of Malta, and it was cold. And it goes on. I won't get into that for the sake of time. I won't get into the story. But the short of a long story, or somewhat of a long story, is that Paul was trying to heat himself. They built a fire and he put his hand over the fire, and there was a snake that was venomous that came out, and it latched itself. The Bible describes it as it latched itself. And so when a snake latches, it coils. And so I can only imagine it coiling either here or coiling somewhere up here. However you look at it, it latched itself on and it bit. So if it bit here, okay, we can say that it bit here, but we can argue that maybe it came up around this area, because that's usually where we get injections at. Y'all follow me? Okay, so he got bit. Now, when he got bit, at no point did he look to what they thought that he should look to, which was the false god, the idol god of medicine. of whatever is out there. When we look at everything that's going on right now, we're getting pushed in a lot of different directions to trust in this and trust in that. What they discovered was that nothing happened to Paul. He didn't get sick. He didn't swell up. Nothing happened. The end of the stories was he shook the snake off into the fire. So we can look at that two ways. One is, if you get the virus, which is a type of snake that coils around you, with God, with the Holy Ghost, with Jesus the Christ, you can shake it off in the fire. Number one. Okay? That's one way of looking at this bite. That's the virus. The other thing is the vaccine. And that is not to fear, because there's a lot of people that's going to say, well, I took it without knowledge, understanding, and that may be true too. That also lets us know from a Christian standpoint that God is going to equip us with a power that's going to be able to overcome this virus. So whether or not this vaccine. So if we get the vaccine and the vaccine is not right, and I don't believe that the vaccine is right, there is hope. There's hope because there's believers that believe that God can do exceedingly abundantly above anything. He can do anything but fail. And so at the end of the day, our trust is in God and it's not in man. I'm not saying that we don't look to medicine that God won't use medicine. I'm not saying that. But when the church gets to the place to where it is putting its trust into science and the hope of a man and idol gods, and they're worshiping that. And when I say worship, it means that that's what you're going after. You're not going after God. You're going after a vaccine, and I'm troubled by that. So I'm going to shut down right here. I've been talking long enough, a lot of rhetoric, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to share some things as it relates to the church that we need to look forward to for 2021. And because I don't see things getting better unless there's a change in the church. There's a change in the conviction that the church has. Well, my friends, I love you all. I miss you. Forgive me for not posting on yesterday. I have a lot of stuff to give that's in my heart. It's just a matter of me getting it to you and trying to figure out what's the best approach to do that. So in the meantime, I'll be praying for you. I love you. Be blessed in the Lord, and have a blessed day.